Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again for the Pozzible Radio Show. It's me, your good friend Pozzible here, along with Joe, who's going to be talking with me today about Star Wars, the Episode 7, The New Hope, and the fears of what's going to happen now that Disney owns the Star Wars label. We're gonna go back and forth on this, Joe. Let's just start with an opening argument here. What do you think of Disney buying Star Wars?
Well, at first I was against it, but then after hearing George Lucas's reasons for selling it, I'm kind of indifferent at this point. I hope that they don't ruin what George Lucas worked so hard to build.
Right. Now, what were George Lucas's reasons for buying the franchise, besides for selling the franchise?
Well, I like one of the things I heard is that he wanted to move on to the next stage of his life. And the thing that really got me is he says, now with Disney doing it, he can be a fan of the series. He doesn't have to worry about being the number one guy. He can go to a theater and watch it and not just have any input.
Oh, just enjoy it like the rest of us. Okay, that's
I'll tell you, that's a great experience.
That's probably worth $4 billion right there.
Yeah, I'm doing it for nothing.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing it for less than nothing because you're actually paying for all the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest discussion on everyone's mind is Episode 7. This is going to be the next Star Wars. We'll start off with what Disney most likely has planned, which is the continuation of what happened after Episode 6, okay? I'm of two minds of the subject. One, they do it immediately after Episode 6. That can be found in books by Timothy Zahn called Heirs to the Empire. Also, there's what's that called? The True Set someplace?
Truce at Bakura.
Truce at Bakura, which is like the very next moment. That's a little too soon because, if you're going to do an Episode 7 and it's going to be right after the series, then obviously you're going to, it's too late to bring in Carrie Fisher and, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill to the party.
Well, in my opinion, most Star Wars fans, I think a lot of people, do consider the Heir to the Empire, commonly known as the Thrawn trilogy, to be the Episode 7, 8, and 9 of the Star Wars franchise, the Star Wars storyline. One
of the best storylines I've ever read. If you haven't read it yet, guys, I really do recommend you get that. What about, is there anything else after even Heirs to the Empire that they could take on next?
Oh, yeah. Think about it. You have the Jedi Academy trilogy.
Right.
With Luke Skywalker going out and getting all the Jedis and figuring out, and basically, for lack of a better term, repopulating the Jedi species.
The Jedi Order. Yes.
I'm trying to think of the words. I couldn't think of them.
No, that's okay. I remember that trilogy. Sometimes I do confuse it because it was in the Tron trilogy that he requested permission to build the Jedi camp on Yavin 4.
Yeah, it was. He built it on the old Episode 4, A New Hope. That base where they were at.
Exactly, they brought it back to that area. Which brings us now to the next question: what do you think they could do for "quote unquote" Episode 7 that would be beyond the Luke, Leia, and Han storyline? Because even beyond the Tron trilogy and the Jedi Order trilogy, they kept making all these books and all these stories, and regardless, they still had Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Leia. Is there any stories beyond those guys that we could think of that'd be in the future?
The only ones I know of in the future that don't revolve around the main Star Wars people were the Legacy series, but unfortunately, I really don't think that's where they go, because that deals with Luke Skywalker's grandson.
Right, that's way in the future.
That's too far in the future.
Right.
I'm sure they had other stories that didn't involve those particular casts, but I feel with the thing of Episode 7, it's going to have to deal with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Chewbacca, and I'm pretty sure that's where they're going to go with this.
Right, that's what everyone is suspecting, but let's bring up a real question here, John. This one's going to be kind of a shocker for you because I haven't mentioned it to you yet.
Should I get my Home Alone face on?
No, not yet, but here's the ultimate question here. What do you think of the idea of them creating a whole new storyline, something that hasn't been written before, something brand new, completely out of the blue about the future of Luke Skywalker just died, or you have Luke Skywalker as a Grand Master of Jediism, and now he's the last one left. everybody else is dead. Han's dead. Leia's dead. Chewie died.
The problem with that is I don't think that's going to work. I think Star Wars fans are just really going to... the true fans are really going to totally dismiss that one. I mean, I don't think that... If you're going to do something with the original characters, you need to keep it at least close. Like, the first one to die pretty much was...
Oh, spoiler alert. Go ahead.
Chewbacca was like one of the big ones to die.
Yeah.
Although, kind of the way he died was kind of weird.
It probably was the only way to kill him, really.
Yeah, drop a moon on him.
Yeah. What's the what book was that in?
I don't know. I don't have that book. I can't. It's one of the, I think it's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't have that one. I have behind the scenes or whatever. The
behind the scenes of the book.
Well, the encyclopedia.
Oh, encyclopedia said it. Okay.
It's something I can't remember, but it's like a whole bunch of Star Wars stuff that tells the stories.
Right.
But without actually reading the book, it just tells what happens to the characters.
Right. Now, when it comes to Star Wars, Episode 7, of course, in everyone's mind, is supposed to be moving forward. You start with the original trilogy. Everything has always surrounded that original trilogy. But one thing, especially a lot of new people don't realize, is that there is a whole story. Like thousands of years of stories before even Yoda. It's called Star Wars: Old Republic, and
actually, like the movies are really pivotal. The Star Wars universe expands like years, thousands of years before. It goes up to like 100,000 years before A New Hope, before Phantom Menace. There was a time in Star Wars where Jedi used swords instead of lightsabers, and then they evolved their lightsabers to clipping them onto their belts for a power source. So, it goes way in the past. And then again, like I said, it does go into the future where you deal with Luke Skywalker's grandson and the Empire has taken back over Coruscant.
Do you know, like by actual count, how much time we're looking at here? Is it like a course of 10,000 years, 20,000 years?
For which one?
From the very, very beginning to the very, very end. From where they started to where they wind up.
I've actually seen a timeline, and like 100,000 years before, like Phantom Menace or A New Hope. That's when these Force-sensitive beings, I think, were discovered, and then
the first Jedi.
Not necessarily Jedi, just people who could use their minds for stuff other, than thinking. They could.
Right.
They had like these magical powers,
telekinesis,
right?
The ability to affect other minds.
The name of it. They're like Rakatan, I think is
okay.
I can't remember the actual name.
That's okay. You're the expert. You got a better handle this than I do.
And then the other end of the spectrum was like 125 years later, after like Jedi or so,
right?
Where Cade Skywalker was Luke Skywalker's grandson, and his main nemesis was, I believe, Darth Krayt. I think was his name. He wore Krayt Dragon scale. He was like the Sith Lords. He threw out the rule of 2 and just had a whole bunch of Darths.
Who came out with the rule of 2?
That would be Darth Bane.
Darth Bane.
According to Star Wars lore, which I think would make excellent movies as well. Disney.
You mentioned that. Darth Bane, where would he fit in? Like, before...
He's 1,000 years before... I think A New Hope, which is kind of neat, because at the end of the Darth Bane story, you could have them, because the Jedi are still kind of out there, have Yoda be born, because he was born around that time. Yoda died at 896 years, I believe.
I thought he was 900 even.
That's what he said in the movies.
But he kind of...
I found a timeline. I believe it was like 896.
Okay, well, you know what? I know that was his age, but let me tell you something. He didn't look a day over 889.
Yeah,
I mean, he was very young looking, still spry for his age. I have to admit, still spry. I loved Yoda. You know what, though? I have to admit, real quick, I will add, Yoda was one person that I think the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, got wrong. Because they like to have him speaking backwards all the time now. And he didn't speak backwards all the time.
And that's a problem. In other methods, or in other mediums, there were Yoda characters. Like in the Old Republic video game, Knights of the Old Republic, the video game, there was a Yoda master on Dantooine named Vandar, and he did not speak backwards. He spoke normal.
Yeah.
But he had Yoda's gruff voice. He was voiced by Ed Asner.
Right, the same guy who did Yoda.
No, that was Frank Oz.
Oh, that's right, Frank Oz. Thank you.
A lot of people remember as Mary Tyler Moore's boss on
right.
Mary Tyler Moore's show.
A classic right there for sure.
He did the voice, but
he was at our Comic-Con, at Phoenix Comic-Con 2012.
Yes.
He was there. And you know what? One of the big regrets I have is I did not meet him.
Me too.
I'm still new at Comic-Con. I didn't know how to meet people then, so that's the way it works sometimes. With that being said, Joe, thank you so much for your input.
Welcome.
You know what I have to say for the closing argument? Star Wars Episode 7 coming 2015. So we got 3 years. They got 3 years to develop it. I believe that they're going to do the original story. I know that people are hoping for the Tron trilogy. The problem is you want to bring in the original character, but you can't bring in the original people. And I don't think people are going to accept a new Han Solo, a new Princess Leia. That's why I think it's going to be a whole new storyline well after, but it's still going to be tied into the original trilogy. Okay,
yes.
the part 7. Now, with that being said, Joe, do you have any closing comments?
Not really. All we can do is just wait till 2015 and just see what Disney can churn out.
Until then, kids, may the Force be with you.
Take it easy.